DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy, family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574 today. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane.
Do you want to know what's happening in the Finger Lakes? We do too. We're going in depth with decision makers in the heart of upstate New York to get the answers you need. From the team of FingerLakes1.com, this is Inside the FLX.
All right, welcome back to Inside the FLX. Today we are getting our monthly City Council update with Auburn Mayor Jimmy Giannettino. Mayor, thanks so much for being here today. Let's start with the city's bid for a hotel tax. Ultimately, it was defeated. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I guess the word I would use, Josh, is disappointed. This is not something new and specific to Auburn. This is something that cities across the state are doing. The cost of providing basic essential services to folks continues to increase. We have double-digit inflation in the last couple of years. That's starting to subside. There's been limited help from the state in helping us provide those services. So this is one way the municipalities are trying to raise some revenue and alleviate the tax burden to property owners. We kind of followed the lead of other municipalities, specifically 2 municipalities that are close to us, Skaneateles and Weedsport. And our Assemblyperson, John Lemondes, he supported those last year. So we thought that, we would go through the process with him and that we would get his support. And unfortunately, we didn't. Yeah.
How surprised were you by that position, given the recency of seeing 2 other communities get the green light for a hotel tax?
100% surprised. Not only the fact that he didn't grant us the request, but a surprise in the sense that he didn't even communicate with my office that he decided not to do that. His office put out a press release to the Citizen, the local newspaper here in Auburn. Robert Harding called me and he broke the news to me. So disappointing in that aspect too, that the Assemblyman doesn't feel that he can communicate with my office on a decision of that magnitude.
Kudos to Robert Harding's reporting over at the Citizen. It was quite the story to break, but how does that math in your own head, getting news of that caliber from a city reporter and not his office?
Yeah, it's strange and disappointing. In my time in office, I had 2 terms as a city councilor, so I've been in office for going on 9 years now. We've always had a very good relationship here in Auburn with our legislative delegation in Albany, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. Gary Finch was our longtime assembly person. He was the ultimate champion for Auburn. I could pick up the phone and call Gary at any point and ask for his assistance with anything. And, I think that if Gary had gone through this process, whether he had decided to support it or not, there would have been direct communication to the mayor's office because that's the way things are supposed to be done.
So where does the city go next on this front? And does the Assemblyman's argument that the city get that funding from the county hold any ground truth? Meaning, is it possible that you guys go that route?
It's hypocritical on his part. Let's just be honest. He didn't tell Weedsport that. And you know what? He didn't tell Skaneateles to do that with Onondaga County. He granted their request. And, in one of his interviews, he said that Skaneateles isn't Auburn or Auburn isn't Skaneateles. I don't know how he termed it. And I don't know what that means. But whatever it means, I don't like it. And I'm sure the people of Auburn don't like that. In terms of splitting the occupancy tax with the county, we did have discussions with the county on that. And that request was not granted. That's a process that happens every 3 years. And the purpose of that request was different than the purpose of the request of Assemblyman Lemondes. We were hoping to get direct support for our historical and cultural sites here in the city through that county bed tax. We're still hopeful that the county and the Office of Tourism will work with our historical and cultural sites and come up with some type of grant program. But that was the intention of that. The intention of this request of Assemblyman Lemondes was to provide direct property tax relief to homeowners here in town and help offset the budget gap of providing essential services like street repairs, police response, fire response. And there's a cost of that with tourism, right? Like people are coming here and they are using the services here in town. And why should the people of Auburn have to pay for that?
How much money are we talking about here?
Actually, it's a pretty good chunk of money. Annually, it would be about $500,000. We had budgeted $250,000 for this year because we figured by the time this all went through, you'd probably have half a year. So we're going to have a little bit of a budget gap there, and we're going to have to figure out how we're going to close that budget gap.
Where does City Council go next on this one? Will we see any action within the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so we don't have a council meeting this week. Because it's the fifth Thursday of the month. So next week, we will be discussing that at the council meeting. It'll be up to the 5 members of council working with the city manager and the city comptroller how to close that budget gap. But there's going to be no good decision, right? It's one of those things where there's bad decisions and worse decisions. But we'll figure it out. We always do. We were just hoping to get the support of our assembly person to provide some property tax relief to local homeowners.
Let's shift gears here and talk about something a little more positive. You had the chance to see plans for the former Chemung Trust building downtown. What's the vision?
Yeah, so I actually had the opportunity that Thursday that we voted, actually the Thursday of the presentation of the plan, to tour the building with the property manager, who's based out of Rochester. The owners of the building are based out of California. They are motivated to redevelop that building. They've actually taken some positive steps. They put a new roof on the building. They were starting to get some water damage, and anybody who's in development knows once the roof starts to go, you have major problems. Their plan, they'd like to put 14 apartments in that building and use the first floor as mixed use. They are in talks with a couple of folks about potential plans for that. But walking through that building, I could see the vision. If we're lucky enough to secure that Restore New York money, the request is $2 million. We don't know that even if we're granted the request that we'll get the full $2 million, but it would be good starter money for them. They know that they're going to have to put another $5 to $6 million into that building, and they're willing to do that. It'd be a great addition to downtown Auburn. We've got a couple new businesses that just opened up: Auburn Bagel Company, another coffee shop, Simple Roast by the name of Roast and Toast. Having 14 apartments and people living downtown just helps small business.
I have to admit, from the outside, it looks like Auburn is going through a bit of a resurgence here downtown. Obviously, a lot of growth over the last several years, but especially since the pandemic. How significant could this development be if it comes to fruition as designed?
We just build on the recent success of the revitalization of downtown Auburn. There's been a host of folks over the last 10 years who have invested in downtown Auburn. Restaurants, bars, coffee shops, things like that. So, and apartments. There are a tremendous number of apartments in downtown Auburn above these stores. And what we've heard from the developers is, as soon as they're done, they're rented. So there is a demand for it. I've got 2 children. One just turned 21, one that's 24, and their mindset's different than my mindset was at that age. My goal was to own a home. That's not necessarily their goal. My son lives in Nashville and he rents a townhouse, and he works hard, but he wants to come home and enjoy his free time. He doesn't want to have to worry about repairs and mowing the grass and things like that. And that seems to be the trend with Micron. Due to break ground, hopefully the end of this year, early next year in Onondaga County. We know that we're going to have an influx of young professionals into central New York, and to be able to say, hey, we've got 14 really nice apartments available in downtown Auburn, that's just a plus for everybody.
What's it tell you about the city's future? I'd imagine you feel pretty bullish about success in the city of Auburn.
Super excited. We just hosted the National Junior Collegiate Association Division III World Series at Falcon Park. There were 8 teams there. And last Thursday night after council, I went out to dinner with a couple of my colleagues, and there was a baseball team there eating dinner, and they seemed super excited to be in Auburn. I'll tell you, with the opening of those 2 new businesses, Saturday and Sunday mornings are extremely busy in downtown Auburn, which really hasn't been the case. And that just builds on, the investment of all those other restaurant and bar owners over the last 10 years. We have a pretty hopping nightlife here in downtown Auburn. Ton of live local music. I think we've got more musicians per capita than any city in the United States, and it's great. We're just super excited about everything that's going on in downtown Auburn. We're appreciative of everybody who's taking a risk, right? Anytime you open a small business, you're taking a risk, and we appreciate that. So yeah, all good stuff.
All right, so Auburn was named a pro-housing community. It's a state initiative a lot of people are reading about. There's around a dozen or so, I'd say, pro-housing communities in our viewing area across the Finger Lakes in central New York. I'm sure there's more to come. What does this mean for Auburn?
Yeah, so this is an initiative by Governor Hochul. We know that statewide there is a housing crisis, and we view it on two fronts. Existing housing stock. We're an old city. We're over 200 years old. Some of the houses are that old, and so we have issues with existing housing stock, and then we have the issue of providing new housing stock. Again, Micron is coming to Syracuse. It's happening. There's going to be an influx of people into central New York. There are going to be spin-off businesses. People are going to want to move here, and they're going to need housing. So everybody kind of getting on the same page of how to approach that is important. Getting our pro-housing designation from the state will free up pots of discretionary funding. For instance, former county chair Dave Gould, when Micron was announced, he formed several committees. One of them was on housing, and I'm on that housing committee. And we've been meeting for the last 18 months. And one of the things we're working with the county to do is a housing study so that we can understand what the wants and needs are, and approach it in that manner. Again, I talk about the difference in generations and what they want for housing. We want to better understand that before we take an approach to, try to encourage developers to come here. Because if people are going to invest and build houses here, or apartment buildings, whatever it is, we want to make sure that they're investing wisely and that they're going to provide what the demand is, and they're going to get a return on their investment. So it appears that the pro-housing designation is going to be needed for just about any type of funding from the state, whether it's housing related or not. The governor did have some issues last year with the legislature in her pro-housing initiative, so this is the route that she's taken. I think it's smart. It's caused us all to look at what the issues are and try to come up with common sense solutions.
And in economic development, Cuga County officially ends CETA, turning to a county-wide development corp. From the city of Auburn's perspective, was this the best possible outcome?
Yeah, so I've been very clear from the start that I felt there needed to be a one-stop shop for economic development. We need to partner with the county. We need all of the agencies under one roof so that when people are seriously considering or investing in Auburn, they know where to go and who to talk to. CETA did commission a study, and I believe that the county legislature, in their decision to not fund CETA, but to continue to fund a one-stop shop for economic development, did use the recommendations in that report to come to that decision. I want to be appreciative of County Chair Eileen McNabb Coleman. She's communicated with me every step of the way. This really is a county decision because they are the funding mechanism for economic development. So I appreciate that open line of communication. We are in the process of scheduling some follow-up meetings to work through what this looks like going forward. Cuyahoga County Development Corporation, CCDC, already exists. So there's a structure there. I'm sure there'll have to be some modifications to it. But yeah, hopefully Auburn Industrial Development Authority, which I sit on that board as well, and the Cuyahoga County Industrial Development Agency, hopefully they will join as well, and we can all get back to work and embrace the opportunities that are in front of us. But I just, I want to acknowledge the folks at CETA. I think they worked hard and they did a good job, and they served the community well in their time that they were around, and also acknowledge the legislature for, really digging in and doing the hard work to find a solution going forward.
A couple more topics here to quickly hit before I let you go. First, closure of Wells College. We talked just 30 days ago, and this wasn't even a thought. And here we are with closure in progress. How do you feel about the news, knowing that the county is going to lose its only 4-year institution?
It's sad. It's a sad day for Wells College. It's a sad day for Cuyahoga County as a whole. I know a lot of Wells alumni, and they're heartbroken. Anytime you go to college, you're permanently connected to that institution. I feel the same way about the schools that I attended. I feel the same way about the Air Force, right? Like you're permanently connected to that. So sad day for sure. I don't want to be a Monday morning quarterback. I wasn't totally pleased with the way it was announced and handled. Understanding that it's an impossible decision. There's no easy way to do it. My understanding is it came as a complete surprise to the county chair and the mayor of Aurora, and that's unfortunate. Obviously, the students who are current students there are negatively impacted. Their lives are basically being uprooted, and they've got to find a solution going forward. So it's just sad all around, right? And that institution has a long history in the Cuyahoga County community. How does it impact Auburn? Well, I've been pretty clear since taking office that what's good for Auburn is good for Cuyahoga County. What's good for Cuyahoga County is good for Auburn. This is bad for Cuyahoga County, so it's bad for Auburn from an economic development point of view, for sure. Hopefully, the collective parties can work together to come up with a long-term solution that makes sense and minimizes the impact on the town of Aurora. Jim Orman's a great guy. He's a fantastic mayor, tremendous public servant. I can't even imagine getting that phone call. But I've told Chairperson McNabb Coleman, if there's anything we can do to assist from a city point of view, the door's always open, the phone's always on. Just let us know. But hopefully a solution can be decided on that minimizes the negative impact on the county as a whole.
What about the prospect or effect of losing young people, the people who could have potentially stayed in Cuyahoga County, stayed in the city of Auburn after graduation from Wells College in Aurora?
Yeah, for sure. That's a serious concern, right? And the company I work for, I know that there's at least 2 Wells College graduates from there, right? They were young people that they graduated from Wells College and they found employment 15 miles up the road at a technology company that produces software. And so there's definitely going to be an impact there. But hopefully, you try to find the positive out of every negative, right? Hopefully, other institutions look at what's happened with Wells College and Casanova, and they take a good look at the way they're doing things. I mean, my daughter goes to the University of Rochester. It's $85,000 a year. That's absurd. I mean, think about that. It's absurd. Luckily, she did very well in school, and she's a tremendous lacrosse player, and it made it affordable for her, right? But I mean, $85,000, that's what people used to pay for houses. That's per year. So if somebody's leaving there, they're graduating with over $300,000 in student debt. It's not sustainable long term. I don't know what the answer is, but hopefully it causes institutions, especially these small liberal arts colleges, which are important, right? Like, those colleges are important because not everybody knows when they graduate high school what they want to do. An institution like Wells gives a young person an opportunity to find themselves and become a productive long-term member of society and find meaningful employment. So those institutions are important, and hopefully it does cause the remainder of the local institutions at least to look at what's going on and address any issues they're having.
And finally, any updates for us on the litigation between the city, the town of Owasco, and New York State?
Yes. So we just had a meeting with our attorneys at Earth Justice, I think 2 weeks ago. The venue was officially changed to Albany County. The initial hearing was here in Cuyahoga County. Judge Boodleman ruled that it should be in Albany County. So that's officially happened. We're awaiting a court date. But our attorneys I have a lot of faith in them. I think we have a strong case. I can tell you this: I know every other lake association and municipality that's dealing with the same issues we're dealing with at Owasco Lake is watching to see what happens here. We were the canary in the coal mine. We have been in front of this. I know some folks are critical because the lake continues to worsen, but there's only so much we can do. And we've done everything that we can do, including suing the state of New York, which is not an action we took lightly.
Hey, Mayor, thanks so much for the time. As always, we will talk to you next month.
Appreciate it, Josh. Have a good day.